Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take stacks of complex source material articles, analyses, reviews, and boil them down into, well, the essential insights you need. Today, we're jumping into the really intense world of Martin Scorsese's 1990 classic Goodfellas. And look, we're not just revisiting a great crime movie here. Our sources frame this film less as a simple gangster story and more like a detailed social canvas. It's exploring how violence, money, and power shape and ultimately, destroy identity. It's a really unflinching look done through Scorsese's very specific, stylized view.
That's exactly right. And our goal here for you, the listener, is to get beyond just the plot points. We want to give you a quick, solid grasp of the three core ideas that, according to our analysis, make this film such a landmark. So we'll be digging into, first, how violence works in this world. Second, the really corrosive effect of money. And finally, Scorsese's own unique style, his way of reflecting on it all. Think of it like this. We're tracing the sort of fatal logic the analysis lays out, how the very things that give these characters status and sense of belonging, the fast money, the fear they command, are completely tangled up with their eventual downfall.
Okay, that sets it up perfectly. So let's unpack that first big theme. Violence. The sources keep saying it's the natural language for these characters. What makes Scorsese's version feel so much more real and disturbing than, say, a typical action movie beatdown?
I think the key difference is how ordinary it seems for them. What's really striking is that the violence often feels transactional almost. Banal. It's stripped of that usual Hollywood spectacle. For Henry Hill, for Tommy, for Jimmy, acts of brutality, whether it's a savage beating or, outright murder, our sources describe them as everyday and almost banal. They're just tools, ways to communicate, assert dominance, or fix a problem.
Right, not epic showdowns, just business.
Exactly. Violence is like currency in their world. Yeah. It's the system they use to maintain social order among themselves. Henry becomes important. He gains meaning precisely because he steps into this environment where making people afraid is the same as earning their respect. That quick, often ugly use of force. It shapes every relationship, settles every argument, shores up loyalty. If you can't project that threat, you're basically nobody.
And watching how normal that cruelty becomes is what's really unsettling, isn't it? Like that early scene, which is still shocking, where Tommy just flies off the handle and attacks Spider, the waiter, over basically nothing. Mm-hmm. It's this burst of just raw, disproportionate rage. But then almost immediately it just gets absorbed back into the group's casual vibe.
That's a perfect example. The sources really emphasize that these acts don't need some big moral reason. All it takes is for someone to have lacked respect, or sometimes even simpler, just gotten in the way of making money. Think about how cold the murder of Billy Batts feels, or later how they have to kill off their own associates just to tie up loose ends from the Lufthansa heist.
Yeah, just tidying up.
Right. It's the suddenness, the messiness, the idea that life is just disposable. That's what makes it so profoundly disturbing. Killing is treated almost like another annoying chore they have to do.
So if violence is what gets them climbing the ladder, where does the analysis say that ladder leads?
Well, it connects violence straight to their destiny, really. The argument in the sources is that while violence is absolutely essential for moving up in that world, it builds their reputation, secures their territory, it's also planting the seeds of their own destruction. They get kind of addicted to it, to that way of operating. It sets up this fatalistic loop. The guys who live by that sudden, brutal code, they're basically doomed to be taken down by it eventually, either through their own uncontrolled rage or, more likely, betrayal from within that same fear-based system they uphold. There's really no exit ramp.
That flows perfectly into the next point, doesn't it? Because often that violence is driven by the need for money. Let's switch over to that. For Henry, Jimmy, Tommy, the analysis is clear. Money isn't just cash. It's everything. It's status, success, proof that they belong. When they talk about making a score, what's the deeper meaning? What does that illicit cash really buy them?
Fundamentally, it buys them the appearance of total freedom and, maybe more importantly, a kind of impunity, at least for a while. The money gives them this instant, very visible identity. It's marked by showing off, by flaunting their defiance of regular rules and morality. Suddenly, they don't wait in lines, they don't follow the same laws, they certainly aren't doing 9-to-5 jobs. They are, for a thrilling period, visibly and aggressively above it all.
And Scorsese really plays with that, right? The attraction of it.
Oh, completely. He shows the wealth with this extreme ambivalence. His camera totally pulls you into the seduction. As a viewer, you're right there, almost celebrating the sheer fun of it, the diamond rings, the sharp suits, the champagne flowing at those crazy late-night parties. But, and this is key, the way the story is structured, you always see how fragile it is. That whole glittering world is built on crime, on scams, on betrayals waiting to happen. The money creates this bubble of security, but it's an illusion that can pop the second the cops close in. Or maybe a rival crew makes a move.
It really does feel like a drug in the film. The sources talk about this insatiable obsession, like the thrill of the score gives them this high, this euphoria, but it fades fast, and then they need more. It never seems to be enough.
Precisely. That obsession becomes the central psychological engine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This constant hunger for more cash, more luxury, more risk-taking. And that's what fuels the paranoia and the distrust that ultimately pits Henry against his closest partners. The minute that easy money pipeline gets threatened, like with the drug dealing later on, the whole structure just starts collapsing on itself. They can never just retire comfortably because the addiction isn't just to the money, it's to the lifestyle, the power it represents. It overrides any sense of self-preservation.
And that desire just pours out into pure consumerism, right?
Yeah.
The analysis mentions they don't just hoard the cash, they have to show it. The illicit gains become these visible symbols of power.
Oh, that's absolutely critical. The flashy car, Karen's fur coat, the gold chains, the constant rounds of expensive dinners, these aren't just things they buy. They're like trophies, visible proof of their success in the criminal world, and they have to keep displaying them.
To keep their status.
Exactly. It's how they maintain their standing, their respect among their peers. If the visible signs of wealth dry up, their position and, honestly, their safety becomes vulnerable almost immediately. The money, the stuff, it's like their required uniform for the job.
Okay, so we've got the violence as language, the money as this corrosive obsession. Now, the third piece. How does Scorsese weave all this together into such a powerful and unforgettable film? What's his signature touch here?
Yeah, this is the third axis, Scorsese's distinctive style, which really acts as a kind of reflection of Henry's own journey and state of mind. Scorsese doesn't just observe from a distance. His camera jumps right in. You feel like you're thrown into the middle of it, capturing what the sources call the vertigo of a life lived on the limit. It's dizzying.
You mean like the technical things he does?
Yeah, think about those famous camera movements. That legendary long tracking shot following Henry and Karen through the Copacabana kitchen and into the club.
Oh yeah, iconic.
Right. But it's more than just showing off. It perfectly conveys that sense of effortless access, that feeling Henry has of being untouchable, of doors just magically opening for him. Now contrast that smooth confidence with the editing later in the film. Remember that final day? The helicopter sequence? Yeah. It's all frantic jump cuts, jarring edits.
Total paranoia.
Exactly. The style shifts completely, from smooth power to paranoid, wired chaos. It perfectly mirrors Henry's mental disintegration as everything closes in.
And we have to mention the soundtrack. The use of pop music is brilliant, maybe even adding to that feeling of violence being casual.
Oh, absolutely crucial. The music choices are central to the film's whole tone. It's all this great rock and roll, doo-wop, classic pop.
Yeah.
It layers this almost upbeat, nostalgic feel over some incredibly dark stuff.
Right, someone's getting beaten half to death and you're hearing like, Tony Bennett?
Exactly. Or, Cream playing during the montage of bodies turning up after the Lufthansa heist. It reinforces that theme of banality we talked about. The violence is just the background noise to their lives. It's incredibly seductive filmmaking, but also deeply manipulative in how it positions the viewer.
And holding it all together is Henry Hill's voiceover. It's so effective because it feels like he's both guiding you and confessing to you at the same time.
That's a great way to put it. The voiceover serves that dual role perfectly. On one level, it gives you this intimate insider perspective. You learn the rules, the slang, the thrill of it all. You're riding along with him.
Yeah, you feel like you're in the know.
But, crucially, Henry is narrating his own downfall, right? He's sort of condemning himself, even while sounding nostalgic. The very things he describes with excitement, the fast life, the danger, the power, are the things that are actively destroying him and everyone around him. So you, the listener, you're constantly forced to reconcile the appealing tone with the horrifying reality of what he's actually describing.
So the film doesn't need a narrator telling you, this is bad. The judgment is just baked into the story itself.
Precisely. The narrative arc provides the critique. The film moves with this kind of unstoppable momentum from that initial wide-eyed fascination with gangster life, that feeling of finally being somebody, all the way down to what the sources call absolute degradation.
Hmm.
And Scorsese makes sure that Henry's survival isn't a victory. It's actually his ultimate punishment.
Which brings us to that final, very bitter irony.
Yeah, Henry survives, but only by becoming a witness, by entering protection. And what does that mean? He has to live like a regular person, a schnook.
Okay.
He's stripped of everything that defined him, the flash, the suits, the easy money, and most importantly, the respect, the fear he commanded. The guy who could get anything now has to, wait in line for pasta like everyone else. The analysis really frames his normal suburban life as a kind of hell for him. Scorsese shows that this whole pursuit of greatness was just a violent, flashy illusion that ultimately left him with absolutely nothing.
It's the ultimate letdown, which I guess leads back to that core tension, the ambiguity that makes Goodfellas stick with you. Scorsese pulls off this balancing act. The raw, realistic violence, the crudeness paired with this incredibly seductive visual style and that amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
You, the viewer, end up caught in this really uncomfortable spot. You feel the pull, the attraction towards this forbidden high-octane world.
Yeah, the energy is undeniable.
But at the same time, you're completely repulsed by the cost, the blood, the paranoia, the constant betrayal.
So if we step back for a final thought, Goodfellas really becomes this kind of universal story about the true cost of ambition when it's fueled by pure greed. The film exposes this devastating paradox. The very lifestyle that promises ultimate belonging, status, and power ends up obliterating trust, loyalty, and even the person's original sense of self.
Yeah, the conclusion from the sources seems really stark. Choosing to live by those criminal rules means you never actually achieve freedom. You just become enslaved.
Right. Chained to the violence you have to dish out and the money you can never get enough of. What looks like infinite power at the start turns out to be just a life sentence of a different kind.
So maybe here's something to think about as you reflect on Henry Hill's rise and spectacular fall. If that life, built on pure excess, illegal shortcuts, and constantly showing off power, inevitably leads to paranoia, isolation, and losing any real freedom, how much of that same trap might be hidden in ambitions we chase in the quote-unquote legal world? Is that relentless drive for more wealth, more status, always trying to jump the line and bend the rules, just maybe on a corporate spreadsheet instead of with a gun? Could that also be a kind of trap, something to maybe mull over, thinking about the real price of any kind of limitless pursuit?